I have to write this down while it's still fresh. While the memory of that heat is still clinging to the boards of the house. 120 degrees. That is the furnace some folks faced not long ago. 3 days, running one into the next, and not a one of them with a machine to hide behind. I saw them, and do you know, they came through it fine. Cool enough to sleep, cool enough to work, their houses bearable through the worst of it. Not by luck, and not by just suffering it out, but by knowing the old ways. The ways of meeting a heat that most folks today have clean forgotten. I want to give you those ways now, the whole of how a body keeps cool through a brutal heatwave with no machine at all. I'm writing this from my kitchen table on this Lancaster County place. We keep no tie to the public power company, which means no grid air conditioning. Not ever. Summer in and summer out. When the heat comes, and it comes fierce some years, we meet it the way my grandmother met it, and her mother before her. I am Emily, and I am writing this down for you, my dear friend, who might be sitting in a house that feels like a furnace, dreading the next electric bill. I know the secret, and I'm passing it on. Now, you might have seen someone talk about placing a fan to move the air and opening the house to the night. That's fine, and I might mention it here or there, but what I want to give you is the rest. The better part. How you cool your own body, how you cook without turning your house into an oven, and the old summer wisdom that goes well past any fan. It's what I'm writing in my diary for you. Take up your pen, dear friend. I want you to be comfortable, and I want you to be free. My grandmother could feel the turn of the day's heat, the way some folks feel rain coming in their knees. By mid-morning, her shades were down without her seeming to think about it. The house went dim and cool and quiet against the climbing sun, and not till the evening cooled would she go around throwing it all open again to the night. Her hot cooking went out to the summer kitchen, so the house never felt it. The butter and milk stayed down in the spring house over the cold running water, and on the worst evenings she would hand each of us children a cold, wet cloth for the back of the neck and send us down to the creek before bed. I thought nothing of any of it as a girl. It was just how a summer was lived. Only grown did I understand she was working a whole art of keeping cool that her mother had taught her. An art with no machine in it anywhere. And it is that art I mean to hand on to you now, with this pen and paper. Start with the one rule the whole thing hangs on. It is so simple folks overlook it. Shut the house against the day. Open it to the night. Through the hot hours, when it is hotter out than in, you button the place up tight, every window and door holding yesterday's cool inside. But shutting the windows is only half, for the sun through the glass is what truly bakes a house. So you must darken it too. The blinds drawn, the curtains pulled, and where you have neither, a sheet or a quilt tacked over the worst windows will do the job. Mind the west windows above all, for the low afternoon sun comes through them like fire laid right at the hottest time of day, and the east ones in the morning after, while the north windows trouble you least of all, and the south ones you can shade with an overhang. Learn which of your windows the sun actually strikes through the day, and guard those hardest. For there is no sense darkening a window the sun never reaches while leaving the blazing one bare. Better still is to stop that sun outside the glass. An awning, a shutter, a shade, anything that turns the sun back before it ever passes through. For once it is through the glass, the heat is already yours to deal with. Then come evening, you wait. You do not throw the windows wide the moment the sun drops, for the air out there may still be hotter than your guarded indoors, and you would only undo your day's work. You wait until the night has truly cooled below your rooms, often well after dark, and then you open everything and let the cool flood through till dawn, and shut it all up again early before the new day's heat can climb. Shut and shade by day, open by night, in that daily rhythm, and you have won half the battle before you have done one thing more. And there is more to a house holding its cool than just the air in it. The very walls and floors drink up the cool of the night and hold it, then give it back slowly through the hot day, which is why a heavy old stone house or a deep cellar stays cool when a flimsy modern box bakes. So the longer and wider you open the house to the cool of the deep night, the more that cool soaks into the bones of the place, and the longer it carries you through the next day's heat. The small hours before dawn are the coolest of all. So do not shut up too soon in your eagerness. Let that coolest air of the night fill the house right up to morning, and only then close it against the day. I'm writing this in my diary to remember, and I want you to remember it too. There is a small habit that goes with this and saves you more than you would guess, and it is to mind your doors on the worst days. Every time a door swings open in that heat, a great gush of the hot outside comes flooding in to spoil the cool you have hoarded. So on a brutal day, you go in and out as little as you can, and when you must, you do it clever. I have heard of families coming home from the store on such a day with a plan worked out. Every soul grabs an armload at the car, and they open that door but the once, all of them throwing through quick and shut it fast behind, rather than a dozen lazy trips, each bleeding the cool away. And if a door must be used through the day, use the one on the shaded north side where the air against it is coolest. A small thing, but on the hottest day, small things are the whole of it. And the same goes for any other way the hot air sneaks in or the cool leaks out. A door left ajar, a gap under a sill, the attic baking overhead and pouring its heat down through the ceiling. The old houses were built with deep porches that shaded the walls and windows from the high sun, and a vented attic or a cupola to let the trapped heat escape out the top rather than press down into the living rooms. For the heat rises and gathers up high and wants a way out. If you're upstairs or your attic bakes, getting that hot air vented out the top does the whole house a kindness. Now, here is the heart of it. The thing I would have you remember above all else, and it is a turning of how you think. You do not in truth need to cool your whole house to be comfortable. You need only to cool your own body, and that is a far smaller, cheaper, easier thing. Think on it. The machine labours to chill every cubic foot of air in a great house, all of it just to comfort the few souls living in it, which is a fearful waste. But cool the one body that matters, your own, and you are comfortable while the house may stay warm as it likes. And cooling the body is the simplest thing in the world. So, take up your diary and note this down, just as I am. You take a cloth, wet it, chill it in cold well water or the cold of your cellar, and lay it on the back of your neck. You will marvel how fast the whole of you cools. The neck is the place because the blood runs shallow there, close under the skin, and the cool passes straight into the blood and is carried round your whole body in a moment. The wrists are such a place too, and under the arms, the spots where the blood runs near the surface. Lay your cool cloth there. Keep a few of them chilling and trade them out as they warm against you. For one cloth alone warms quick against your skin and loses its use. But 3 or 4 in rotation keep you cool as long as you please. On a night too hot to sleep, a cold cloth at your neck or laid on your chest with a fan playing across it will carry you off to sleep where you tossed before. And there is no mystery in why it works. It is the very thing your own sweat does. For when water dries off a surface, it carries the heat away with it. That is how the body cools itself. And a damp cloth in moving air is only that same cooling lent a hand. I learned it young, labouring in a place hot as a forge, where a wet rag round the neck was the one way to last the day, and the old hands in the hayfields knew it long before me. A wet kerchief at the throat through the burning work of the harvest. One honest thing to know about it, this evaporating cooling works best in a dry heat, where the air is thirsty and pulls the moisture off you fast. And it works less well in a heavy wet heat, where the air is already so full of water it can take little more. Which is the same reason a dry 100 degrees is bearable and a wet 90 is misery. In the dry country, a wet cloth and a breeze will cool you wonderfully. In the soaking humid country, it helps less. And there you lean harder on the shade and the cool cellar and the moving air. Know which heat you fight, and you will know which tools serve you best. So, light loose clothing, cool water on the wrists and the feet, a wet cloth at the neck, and you are a comfortable woman in a warm house, having spent next to nothing. That is the old way of it. You tend the body, not the building. And it is a freeing thing to learn, for it means the heat holds far less power over you than you feared. You are not at the mercy of a machine that might fail you, or a bill you can scarce pay. You carry your own comfort in a wet cloth and a bit of knowing wherever you are. The next thing folks never think of is the furnace standing in the middle of their own kitchen, your stove, your oven. In the dead of summer, baking and boiling all day pours heat into your house and holds it there for hours. And on a hot day, that is the last thing you want, however welcome it would be come January. So the rule through the heat is, do not cook your house hot, where you can cook by the gentle, slow ways that do not blast out heat. And if you must run the big heat of the oven, do it of an evening, never the morning. For heat laid into the house at morning bakes there all the long day, while heat made at evening you can carry straight back out the open windows into the cooling night. But the finest answer, and the old one, is to put the cooking out of the house entirely in the hot months. The old farmhouses had their summer kitchen for just this, a little outbuilding or a porch set apart where all the hot weather cooking and the canning was done, so the heat never came near the rooms where the family lived and slept. You can keep the same wisdom in your own way by cooking outdoors, a fire pit, a grill, an outdoor hearth set in the shade, or the breeze where you cook your meals, and even bake in a Dutch oven over coals without sending 1 degree of it into your house. The canning, especially, the old folks took outside, for putting up the summer harvest means hours of boiling kettles in the hottest stretch of the year, enough to make an oven of any kitchen. And do not forget the cool suppers of summer either, the cold meats and breads, the salads, the ripe fruits of the season. For a cold plate on a hot night is no hardship and heats the house not at all. The old people ate light and cool in the heat and saved their heavy baking for the cold of the year, which is both the wholesome way and the wise one. Set yourself up a proper outdoor spot for it, a table to work at, and your fire or your coals in the shade, and bring everything you need out at once, so you are not forever running back into the house and letting the heat in each trip. There is a real pleasure in it besides, cooking out under the trees of a summer evening with the breeze moving, the family about rather than shut sweating over a hot stove indoors. The thing that began as a way to spare the house turns out to be the sweeter way to pass a hot evening. Anyhow, some of the best cooling is the kind you plant and wait years for, and that is a shade tree set on the hot side of the house, the west and the south, where the afternoon sun is cruelest. Such a tree will shade your roof and walls from the worst of the heat better than any machine ever made. And here is the old cleverness in it. You choose a tree that drops its leaves in winter. Then in summer it stands thick with leaves and throws its shade across your house through the blazing afternoons. But come winter, it has shed them bare and lets the low sun through to warm you when you want warming. The one tree cools you in July and warms you in January. It is the longest-lasting comfort there is. Planted once and shading your house and your grandchildren's house for 100 years. It takes its time to grow. So the wisdom is the old wisdom. The best day to have planted it was long ago, and the next best day is this one. And it need not be only a tree, for a vine will do the same and faster. The old climbing things trained up over a sunny porch or a trellis by a hot window, leafing out thick to shade you through summer and dying back to bare in the winter to let the sun return. A grapevine, a hardy climber over an arbour by the south wall, gives you shade in 1 or 2 seasons, where a tree wants 10, and fruit besides. The old people grew their vines over the porch for just this cool green shade in the heat and bare sticks, letting the winter sun through. And there is always water, which cools a body like nothing else on earth. A creek, a pond, a stock tank, the cold of a deep cellar you can step down into, a basin of cold well water for your feet of an evening. The feet cool the whole of you near as well as the neck. So a body soaking his feet in cold water on the porch of a summer evening cools all over more than you would think. Seek the cool low places on the worst days. For the cellar and the shaded north of the house and the deep shade of a tree run far cooler than the open yard or the upstairs where the heat gathers and sits. Live low and shaded when it is fierce. Rest in the coolest room and sleep downstairs or out on the porch if your upstairs bakes, as many an old family did, carrying the bedding down to the cool on the worst nights and thinking nothing of it. And do your hard work if you have work that must be done in the cool of the early morning or the evening, and rest through the worst heat of the afternoon. For the old farmers were up and labouring at first light, and took their ease in the shade through the burning middle of the day, working again as it cooled toward evening. That is plain sense, to spend yourself when it is cool and spare yourself when it is hot, rather than labouring through the furnace of noon and wearing yourself down. The country that knows real heat has always lived that way, early and late and resting in the shade between. I will say a plain word too on why all this got forgotten, and it is not a wicked plot, only the plain way of things. There is money to be made selling a machine, and the power to feed it all summer long, and none at all to be made teaching a woman to shade her windows and wet her neck and cook out of doors. So the machine got all the telling and the talking and the selling year upon year, until folks half believe a body cannot live through a hot day without one. But that is plainly false. For whole generations lived through worse heat than most of us will ever feel, with not a machine among them. And they did not perish. They kept cool and slept sound, and went about their work by nothing but the knowing. The knowing was simply allowed to slip away, because no one stood to profit by keeping it alive. And that is why I'm breaking my silence. That is why I'm writing this down for you. It's not rebellion, it's stewardship. It's making sure this good simple knowledge isn't lost to the world. It's for the old woman in a city apartment who can't afford a machine, and the young family trying to get by without the crushing debt. It's for everyone who has ever felt helpless against the sun. This knowledge belongs to all of us. It was never meant to be a secret. I'm just the one with the pen, whispering the old truths in a new way. So that is the whole of meeting a fierce heat without a machine. Shut and shade the house through the day, and open it to the night and guard your doors. Cool your own body before your house, a cold, wet cloth at the neck and the wrists, and let the drying of it carry your heat off. A fan playing over you at night. Keep your cooking heat out of the house. Cooking cool or late, or best of all out of doors the old summer kitchen way. Plant your shade tree for the long years, and go to the water and the cool low places when the heat is at its worst. Do these, and you will be a cool and easy woman through the fiercest summer, your house bearable, your sleep sound, and your bill a small fraction of your neighbours who never learned there was another way. I would dearly like to hear how the heat treats you where you live and how you fight it. Write me below and tell me how hot your summers run, whether your nights cool off kindly or stay close and warm, and whether you will give the cold cloth at the neck a try the next sleepless hot night. Tell me what part of the country you write from while you are at it, for the dry heat and the wet are two different beasts to fight, and I learn a great deal from where you all sit when you write. I have it in mind to write you next a good deal more about cutting that summer power bill down well past the cooling alone. All the quiet little ways a house bleeds money and power through the hot months, and how the old people kept their costs down near to nothing through a long summer. Through every brutal summer that ever was, before there was a machine to run from it, folks shaded their houses and wetted their necks and carried their cooking out of doors and planted their trees. And they came through cool and whole and unafraid of the heat. There is a quiet strength in knowing the summer cannot beat you, that you can meet the worst it brings with your own two hands and a little inherited sense, and never once depend on a machine or dread the bill it brings. The people who built this country with their hands knew that. Now, my dear friend, so do you. Write it down in your diary, remember it, pass it on. It is your birthright as much as it is mine.